past occurrences have left me with no other choice but to lock myself up inside a hotel room in a town I randomly chose. Soon, they will find my corpse in this room. Something happened to me, and I have absolutely no way of explaining this to anyone close to me. All I know is that it will happen, and that I can't stop it. It started with me and 4 other strangers 5 years ago. They'd be the only ones to understand, but I have no way of contacting them. No number, no address, only their first names. Our ways crossed by accident. At least that's what I always thought. It was a quiet train ride on a Tuesday afternoon, and I was on my way to a city across the country for business. I'd been working as a data analyst at the same company for 10 years now, a quarter of my life. And at least one of those years, I wasted on trains. But this particular ride was different. It changed my life in a way I didn't think was imaginable. Inside my wagon were 4 other people. Maybe my job had taken over a big part of my life, or maybe my personality was the reason I chose this profession in the first place, but I'd gotten quite thorough at mentally recording all my surroundings. The first stranger was Izzy, a woman in her early 20s, lost in her oversized shirt and big curly hair. Sammy was the most restless of the group and the youngest, still in high school at that time, I would guess. He kept getting up to go to the bathroom, to the train restaurant, or simply just walking from one wagon to the other. The third one was Nora, with her dark purple glasses and a few gray stains. Her 2 hours were spent continuously typing into her laptop. Even though the wagon was almost empty, she sat right across from me. Theo is the hardest to describe, because I couldn't see through him one bit. All I can say is that he had very dark hair and a kind smile. I would learn their names and get to know their personalities later that day. All of us had different reasons for being on the train, different occupations and pasts, but we had one particular thing in common. All of our lives would be ruined that day. I was just in the middle of creating a dashboard with Nora's quick but calming typing in my ears when the train came to a sudden halt. We were just passing through a tunnel which I wasn't a fan of in general. A train already feels suffocating, but when it's inside a narrow tube, it might as well be hell. Nora gasped and looked around. Then all of a sudden, the lights inside our trains shut off as well. I felt the air leaving my lungs and grabbed the table in front of me. Darkness has never been my friend. There should have been at least some light inside, shining from Laura's laptop or from the green emergency signs at the end of the wagon. But there was nothing. It was as if someone had put a black blanket over me. "What just happened?" Nora said either to me or to herself. "My phone's not working," the other woman said. My heart rate fastened. Trains come to a halt in tunnels all the time, but this was different. Somehow, I already knew then. I knew that we were in danger. When reality suddenly feels slightly wrong, your body immediately realizes, but your mind can't change gears so quickly. All the thoughts have to be organized. Like, am I imagining this? Could there be a reason that all electricity stops working at the same time? We were thrown into a strange situation, but that wasn't all. There was this lingering feeling, a shift in the atmosphere. You could tell that something was lurking. All these thoughts were rushing through my mind in a matter of seconds. It couldn't have been much longer. That's when we heard the door open, followed by heavy footsteps. Suddenly, we were all quiet, awaiting what would happen next. The steps went through the wagon. I could tell that someone had stopped next to me. I could feel and hear their breath. I opened my mouth, but no words came out. Silence was the only thing that felt right at that moment. Then, the person moved further and left again through the door. More moments passed, but finally, the light came back. I could hear Nora taking a deep breath, and Theo behind me started whispering, "What the?" Just before the train started moving again, I looked out my window. Right in front of it was the face of a woman, grinning right at me. The passengers in front of me didn't see her. They were looking at something on their tables, and then I realized that we all had a piece of paper in front of us. There was something written on it in very distinctive cursive letters. "There is no stopping it."
I'm not the only one who feels freaked out, right?
Nora finally broke the silence. It didn't come back for the entire rest of the ride.
Who did this? Was this planned? What the hell does this note mean?
Theo was the first one to get up and walk to the next wagon. When he came back, he looked more confused than before.
"The power was only off in our wagon. Nobody's gotten a note. They all looked at me like I was insane." "Well, if you are, then so are we,"
Izzy responded. I scratched my head.
"This is absurd. Did someone prank us? What kind of a weird-ass prank would that be?"
Sammy said. At one moment, the conductor walked through, but he confirmed what Theo told us earlier. The train came to a halt, but nothing else happened. He actually looked very concerned when he saw the shock on our faces. When the conductor left, we all started talking at the same time. There was another shift in the atmosphere, but this time, it felt familiar, like we were friends who'd known each other their whole life. We kept talking theories the entire ride. We exchanged names, but nothing else. When we reached our destination, we said an awkward goodbye. We should have done more then, but we couldn't have known what would happen in the following years. That this had only been the introduction to the torture, and that we soon would be forced to do unspeakable things. I received my first letter 6 months after the train incident. This time, it was waiting for me in my mailbox. It was written in the same style as the first note. "Quit your job, give no explanation. Consequences for not performing your duty will always be worse." I must admit, I was completely freaked out. Not because of what the letter said, but because they somehow had found me. We started referring to them, although I have no idea if this was a group of people, an organization, or one individual. I don't even know if they're human, to be honest. I wish I could say that I'd forgotten about the day on the train until then, but it had been following me closely. It regularly came to me in my dreams. I still remember the face of the woman distinctly. When our eyes locked that day, she took something from me, a part of my soul. Despite what my gut was telling me, I ignored the letter. 2 days later, I was fired. Apparently, I had sent a very graphic and humiliating email to everyone at the company. Of course, it wasn't really me. They hacked me, but it didn't matter. I was gone. Suddenly, I was unemployed and had to move out of my house into a smaller apartment. I didn't get any job I ever applied to. They made sure of that, although they also sent me a bit of money every now and then. This was my first task, but also the least bad one. Over the next years, I would become a henchman for something I still don't understand. All I know is that I am helping to achieve something awful. I don't like to recollect all the things I have done, but there is one I need to get off my chest. This letter came to me 1 year ago. You have been chosen. This is your instruction. Find the house at redacted address set it on fire. If humans scream for help inside, ignore it. I've tried talking to the police about these letters before. It does more harm than good. But I didn't know what else to do either, so I tried to ignore the letter. When my sister's house burned down 2 days later, I knew it was my punishment. She survived, but it was a close call. My nephew is still at the hospital. After that, another letter arrived with the same instructions, and I knew I couldn't ignore it. I would like to say that I never planned to actually do it. I told myself I'd drive to the address just to have a look, maybe to understand better what was happening. But deep inside I knew that I had to fulfill the task. That's why I had the gas and matches in my trunk. It was a small house on a quiet street. It was dark and there was nobody else outside. From what I could tell, there was nobody inside either. At least, that's what I told myself when I started pouring the gas all around the house. And then somebody inside switched on the light. A man my age came to one of the windows and we locked eyes. He saw what I held in my hand. I stumbled back. My heart was racing. I had no idea how to explain what I was doing, but as it turned out, I didn't have to. He held a piece of paper to the window with something written on it. You must be burned alive. There is no stopping it. He looked at the matches in my hand and nodded. When it was done, I ignored the screams. For once, I was more than grateful that I never got married or had children. It was time for me to slowly disappear from my regular life. The past few years, I've been isolating myself more and more. It didn't matter if I told myself that none of it was true, because subconsciously, I knew the entire time. The consequence had been following me like a dark shadow, one that had tainted a part of my brain black, and cutting it out was not an option. It's hard to explain how I know all this, but I do. Burning that house down was only the beginning. Every year since that first occurrence, I've been receiving a letter. I've tried locking myself away, putting up cameras in and outside of my house. It doesn't matter. When I don't oblige, they punish me by causing a bus to crash into a school or a hospital. They threatened to hurt my friends and my family, even after I broke off all contact with them. Their consequences are always worse. Yesterday, I received my last letter. You must die, alone. Lock yourself inside a room. The rest will be taken care of. I could try to run away. I could try to hide. But I learned in the past years that it's no use. In a few days, I will be dead in this random hotel room in this lost town. I simply hope my message somehow reaches the other four in time, and I hope that they find each other in a way to end this. My mistake was trying to do it all alone. There were 5 of us in that train wagon. We are somehow connected. Together, I hope they can find the answers I couldn't. Theo, Izzy, Nora, or Sammy. In case one of you receives a letter instructing you to kill me, do it. There is no stopping it. Ian.